What's going on, everybody? My name is Lord Liriano. This is my channel, and this is my first video. Came across this article about Tim Scott, and I wanted to go over it. Just a little background about me. I am a young black man from America, live in New York. I have parents of a Dominican background, and I am a Republican and a conservative. So, with this channel, I'm going to be speaking more on political and pop culture issues. So, if you're interested in hearing my take on things, especially in the political sphere, I hope I don't fail to entertain and intrigue you. So, this article caught my interest, and it basically talks about what Tim Scott has to go through as being the sole black Republican in Congress. Now, being that it is the Washington Post, obviously it's a very left-leaning take. Not too bad, but you clearly have this left bias in it. And I just wanted to go through it with you, read it, to give you my take on it, and see if I can weed through some of the bull crap that they're spitting. So let's see. Tim Scott, the Republican Party's most powerful black lawmaker, first saw the president's tweet less than 10 minutes before going live on CNN. So they're probably referring to the tweet in which he had, I guess, put up a video of someone saying white power, I guess. And I guess they deferred to Tim Scott to comment on it. Before that late June appearance, Shake Tapper, the host of Sunday's show State of the Union, texted it to Senator from South Carolina ahead of asking for a comment on air about President Trump's decision to share a video of one of his supporters shouting white power. Without much time to think, Scott got in touch with the Chief of Staff, Jennifer DeCasper, to get her opinion. Interesting. So he asked someone, and they told him that no one would have a problem with him calling it out. And so I guess he called it out. So he wanted to make sure that, it didn't look bad. He wanted to make sure that it, didn't negatively affect him or the... it makes sense to seek counsel. You don't want to just shoot off the cuff, especially with, a news outlet that is going to attempt to take whatever you say and spin it like CNN does. It makes perfect sense to get counsel. And it goes on to explain that he did denounce it. So one of the things that interests me is when they start talking about the respect that Donald Trump has for Senator Tim Scott. And when it comes to issues on race, when something seems like it has racial connotations to it, apparently it seems as though they defer to Tim Scott and seek out his expertise and opinion. Now, I can also respect that, but also have a problem with it because Tim Scott is his own individual. He doesn't speak for everyone. He doesn't speak for the entire black community. So it's unfair for us to ask that of him. But that did, make me happy to see that people do appreciate his input and his take, and he's a well-respected person within the Republican Party. That even Jimmy Graham, a guy who's been in office for 30-some years, right, sits there and says, when Tim says something, I defer to Tim. That says something of you as a senator and as a politician when people are very willing to defer to your opinion. So, let me see. While Tim Scott was criticizing the tweet on CNN, Trump's motorcade, all right, so they were talking about how he was golfing. A short time later, on the links, Kushner and Ivanka brought the news to Trump. According to Graham, the senior senator said he told the president that if that's what Tim thinks, that goes a long way with me. It's pretty powerful right there. Jimmy Graham taking what Tim Scott says a long way. It shows the respect that he has. And then to juxtapose that with the disrespect that he gets from the Democrats, it's amazing. They sit there and call Lindsey Graham a racist and sit there and say that they're all racist. Yet they would be the first ones to discredit and dispel and tear down Tim Scott. They make no sense. The left makes no sense, is what I'm talking about. So they go on to talk about his response to the Charleston shooting and him talking about deaths. And then what they did was, interestingly, they brought up his own police reform bill that he tried to introduce back then, before they even introduced this whole George Floyd incident. He was actually on police reform before. So, you know, the fact that everyone's coming to this party later than him shows that this guy is really ahead of it. So what I don't like is that with him, you know, saying what he says about the Republican Party and his views and his takes on what Trump says, the fact that they sound like they can't stand him defending Trump, and that they can't stand the fact that he has it sounds like they hate the fact that he has this different opinion. And they make this evident by how they start, you know, trying to make Trump out as the racist, and say, oh, it's, you know, it's racial this, it's racial that, you know, he has to do this, he has to do that. And it's like, I think you're putting more burden on him than is really on him. And I think that's what is the more frustrating thing about this article, is that they're trying to make him the guy that they defer to on race, when he may not actually be that guy. He may be someone who's respected, like they respect his opinion. But for them to try to sit there and say, oh, he's the guy that they defer to on race, like, no, that's not what it is. Because I wouldn't defer to him when it comes to the Hispanic vote. You know, just like I don't think it's good to defer to him when it comes to the black vote, because he's not the entire black community. So the fact that you're putting, like, it's not even that, like, they say, oh, the burden of Tim. It's not that he has a burden. You're putting a burden on him, and the Democrats put a burden on him because they hate him. The Democrats, in this article, they explain how the Democrats are the ones that shoot this down. All right, so here. His speech framed. All right, so he gives a speech on the Charleston shooting, right? And in the speech, his speech framed as an attack on a Democratic colleague who had criticized Scott's bill as inadequate to the task, and who used the loaded word token to describe it. I don't like how they used the loaded word. They know there wasn't no lid. They was clearly trying to call him a house nigga. That's clearly what they were trying to do. They was like, you is up in the house while the rest of us on the Democrat side is in the field. That's what they were trying to say with this. And this is where, you know, this is where I feel sorry for him, because it's like he has to deal with attacks mostly from Democrats. It's not even like most of the attacks come from Republicans. Like, I could see like racist Republicans attacking him. But most of those racist, probably emails and death threats that you get are probably from Democrats. I'm pretty sure. So it says, in private, Scott has schooled his Republican colleagues on the everyday racism he and his family have encountered. This is going to be interesting, right? I haven't read this part yet, so this is where it gets interesting for me. In private, Scott has schooled him. The 18 times, by his count, he's been pulled over by police in the last 2 decades. Right? Now, being pulled over by police 18 times in the last 2 decades, that means you were barely getting pulled over once every year. Like, really, that's a problem. 18 times in 20 years. That's like once a year, if that. If that. There's at least 18 times, 2 years. There could have been 2 years that it didn't happen. Like, how often did it happen? Like the context that they ignore. Like, did the cops pull him over because he was black? He could have been speeding all 18 times. and that's why they pulled him over. Or he could have had a broken tail, like all 18. Like you don't, like they don't provide context, so they try to say that him being pulled over is indicative of racism, and that right there, without proof, should be reprehensible. You know, the bigoted voicemails left for his office. I'm pretty sure he gets bigoted voicemails. Who doesn't? You know, especially him being a black Republican. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of white Democrats that call him the N-word, and a lot of black Democrats that sit there and call him a coon and Uncle Tom. I'm pretty sure the story of his grandfather, whose life provides the senator perspective on his own child. I don't know what that means. But being the Republican race explainer is not a role Scott loves, especially when it comes to being questioned by the media whenever a president does something offensive, like refer to several predominantly black nations as shithole countries. Here's the thing, though. It's like, he's not the race explainer. You guys go to him to be the race explainer because you guys love to like, oh, look at what Trump said. Are you still a black Republican? Are you still a Republican? Like Joe, just like they have to. The reason why they come to him is because they want to make him look bad. Like, oh, look at you supporting this president, and he's saying these things. He's not the race explainer. You're forcing him into that position. He didn't reach out to you guys to say anything. You guys reached out to him. So how is he the race explainer? You guys are reaching out to him. And then they talk about all the stuff Trump said about S-hole countries and go back to your land and stuff, and you know. And then they talk about how he gets, you know, one of the most telling aspects about him is what he doesn't call out. And I think that this is where I feel the problem is that you're making him the race explainer. He doesn't have to call things out. You're the one who's making him call it out. You're the one who's telling him, you better call it out. You better say something. And it better be consistent because we're going to chew your ass out. You better be consistent. Oh, if he slips up once, and if he contradicts himself just once, they're tearing him a new booty. Tearing him a new booty. Let's go. Introduction to private life. Oh, they start. They go into like demonizing Trump and saying like, how can this guy support a president that, you know, it's an inevitable asked constantly to account for Trump's language. Is this a quote from him? This is not a quote from him. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it's not a quote from him. Like, yeah, like so this is amazing about this statement. I just thought about this. They like the unenviable position to be the one senator asked constantly. And this is the problem, is that black conservatives are constantly asked to answer for the flaws of white people within the Republican Party and the ignorant things that they say. However, we don't hold them accountable and responsible for the ignorant things that are said on the Democrat side, because we understand that they're not responsible for another individual's actions and words. Unfortunately, they don't extend that same courtesy. They don't. And they play these double standards, and they'll make you out to be the bad guy whenever you call them out on their bullcrap. Because they're going to deflect to the fact that you support Trump, and Trump's evil, therefore you're evil. At the end of the day, Tim Scott doesn't have to answer to any of you assholes. Tim Scott has a mind of his own. If he wants to defend Donald Trump in a particular instance, let him do that on his own. You guys trying to make him the race explainer? It's ridiculous. Don't make the guy answer for another man's words. Like, we don't ask that of anyone else. Why are you asking that of him? It's unfair, but it's indicative of what they do to black Republicans. They put them under a microscope, and you have to be damn near perfect. You have to, or else you're getting toasted by the left-wing media, and any credence that you have within the black community is done. Tim Scott, you can't look at Tim Scott and be like, oh, that's a bad. He's hurting black people. You can't look at Tim Scott like that. If you look at his track record, you can't say that. He's a beast. He does what he's for the community. So you want to go ahead and throw this, oh, Tim Scott is a sellout, he's a this. I'm like, bruh, pull up his track record. He was talking police reform before a lot of y'all was. Y'all was still on systemic racism. He's actually addressing the real root issue. Y'all want to go on these abstract topics that aren't even, real. You just made them up in your head because you want to play this victim narrative. Take life by the balls and give your balls a tug. But anyway, Tim Scott, 2024. Nah, I'm joking. I'll have to see how his political career goes. But very long-winded and basically trying to make the case that he's carrying the Republican Party's black support on his back or something like that. But anyway, my man Tim Scott has the right ideas, in my opinion. I think that he's doing a great job, and more support to him and more support to other black conservatives who are trying to go out there and garner more support for the Republican Party. 2020 is coming. It's going to be a pretty intense race, and as you can see, the black vote is in the focal point for both parties. So let's hope Tim Scott has made some sort of, traction with that speech that he made. And let's see what 2020 yields. Hopefully we can get Trump back in there, because I think that Joe Biden is probably going to die in the first year just because he's so old and might just forget to live because he forgets everything. And yeah, Kamala and Willie Brown were a thing. Just had to throw that out there because everyone likes to deny that. Kamala is trash, and it's going to be hilarious watching Trump and Pence sweep the floor with them. But at the end of the day, that's my first video for the page. Going to have another video talking about the state of black conservatism in America. That's going to be the next video. Hopefully that comes out within the next week or two, and I'll see you all shortly. Peace.